In this video, we'll be getting started with Adobe Audition. Adobe Audition is installed on every workstation that's managed by the Media and Communications Hub. So this could be the Post Labs, the Broadcast Newsroom, the Staff's Live Newsroom, Cadman G001 and G002. So you've got many different options to choose where you want to work if you want to use Adobe Audition. We do have a mixture of Macs and Windows PCs. Some Macs, such as the ones in the Broadcast Newsroom and Staff's Live Newsroom, are also dual boot iMacs, which means that you can use either Windows or the Mac OS operating system. So if you're more familiar with Windows, for example, you can boot up Windows in that particular area and use Adobe Audition on that operating system as opposed to Mac. But also, Audition is installed in a lot of other places on the university campus as well, such as the Thompson Library. So if you find that you don't have access to any of the facilities that are managed by the Media and Communications Hub, you can of course use places like the Thompson Library as well. Your other option, of course, is to download the Adobe Creative Cloud Suite, which comes at a certain price for students. If we just go to Safari and let's do a Google search for Adobe CC Students, let's see what the results are. So if we go to this first link here, we can see how much the student version of Adobe Creative Cloud will cost. And it's actually £16.24 per month. So if you're planning on doing a lot of work away from the university, this might be something that is worth considering. Of course, as well, you need to make sure that the machine that you're working on, whether it is Mac or PC, is indeed powerful enough to run all of the apps that you're likely to be using. So mainly Adobe Audition, Premiere Pro, maybe InDesign, maybe Photoshop, maybe After Effects. So make sure your machine's powerful enough to run all of those apps. Okay, let's go ahead then and launch Adobe Audition. So I'm just going to quit Safari in this case, and in my dock down here I've got Adobe Audition CC 2020. Now if you're working in one of the labs, it might take 30 seconds or so to load up, so just bear with it during this process. It's also useful to make sure that you've checked your input and output settings as well, and you can do that by going to the Preferences part of Adobe Audition. Now on a Mac, you'll go to the Adobe Audition menu at the top of the screen, go to Preferences, and then choose Audio Hardware. If you're on Windows, you'll go to the Edit menu, and then Preferences is usually down to the bottom, and you can also again choose Audio Hardware. So let's go over to there. And you'll just want to check your default input and output devices, mainly the output device because we're only editing today, we're not going to be doing any recording. But this would usually be your system default output device. So just be aware, if you've got any playback issues, come to your preferences, go to Audio Hardware and check your default input and output devices. Just to make sure that we're all working in the same workspace, I'm going to just click OK on here, and I'd like you all to make sure that you've got the default workspace selected at the top. Now you can either choose that at the top here, you've got other workspaces as well, such as edit audio to video, radio production and so on, but I'd like you to choose default. You can also access these options from the window and workspace menu at the top of the screen, so make sure you've got default selected. And also if we go to reset to saved layout, that'll make sure that we're all working within the same layout within Audition. Now it's always good practice that you rename any of the audio files that you import into Audition before you actually get them into the software. So that's what we're going to do next. If we just reveal our folder that we downloaded from the web a few moments ago, within here there are some different audio files that we might need to change the names of. We're going to stick with 0, 1 to 10, so we're happy with that file name, but let me just show you a little bit further into this radio package master folder just here. We've got 5 different subfolders, and each of those may or may not contain content. Exports is empty, for example. We do have interview clips, which has a separate subfolder within there. We'll come back to this one in a moment. We've also got links and music and also sound effects. So all of these audio files will form part of a radio package that we'll be working on through this particular session. Moving back to interview clips though, we can see that we've got this subfolder here called 2020-08-26. Now this folder has been downloaded from one of our audio devices, which is called the Yellowtech IXM. I'll explain the IXM in a different video, I'll make that available to you, but it's basically an audio recording device that's used to capture interview content. The IXM stores folders with this naming structure, so we can see that this particular folder was created on the 26th of the 8th, 2020. And if we look into this folder, we can see the audio files that the IXM microphone has recorded in this case. Now, these are classic examples of the type of file names that you don't want to be importing into Adobe Audition without renaming the files in the first place. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to rename IXM Mic 01 to Charlie McDonald, and you can either do that on Mac by selecting the file and pressing the Enter or Return key, or instead you can right click and go to rename, and you can also of course do that on Windows as well. So let's rename this file, and this one is going to be called Charlie McDonald. So let's type that in now. So there we have Charlie McDonald. This will all become clearer later on. Next, IXM Mic 2, we're going to rename this one as Oshor Williams. So O-S-H-O-R Williams. Almost spelled that right there. And enter to confirm. So they are two audio files that we've needed to change the names of before we add them into Adobe Audition. Okay, that's a very brief overview of getting started with Adobe Audition. Coming up next, we're going to take a look at how to import files into Audition, as well as giving you a basic tour of the Adobe Audition interface.